Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Driven Wyld. Today we are talking about Veho updates route selection. So Veho had a pretty straightforward route selection system and pay model for the most part, but recently they updated how you can select routes and the information they display to you. And honestly, there is nothing I quite hate as much as this particular update. I know I'm late to the party with this, and this has already been in a lot of different areas, but I think it's important to discuss. So with that said, I want to talk about the recent change to the route selection system, how it affects drivers, and everything in between. But before we do that, let's go over a quick disclaimer. The content of this video does not contain, is never intended to be, legal, business, financial, tax, or health advice of any kind. This video is for entertainment purposes only. As advised that you conduct your own research and consult qualified professionals before applying anything you find online. I also want to be clear that everything that we're going to be going over today is very market dependent, and what applies to me and my market may not apply to you. So with that said, let's get started. So the route selection system was overall very simple. You had a bunch of routes on a first come first served basis, drop at a specific time, and they offered a certain amount of information on said routes. The amount of money you're gonna make during a specific number of hours during that period of time, and you were paid to complete it. There are some nuances with that, but either way, you made more money or it cost you a lot to do the route. And if you want to know more about those particular nuances, I made a video talking all about the original route selection system, and it still applies for the most part. I will leave that in the description. Feel free to check it out. As Veho grows, there is an increasing need to add or remove packages from routes after they are published to meet the needs of package recipients. However, it's important to us to do this in a way that ensures driver partners continue to have accurate information about routes before they are started. This was a really growing problem for Veho as a whole. If you accepted a route that started at 9 and then it was supposed to be a 4-hour route and you had something planned for, let's say, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, right? You can get it done in that time, especially since routes can be finished early. However, they kept adding and pushing those boundaries so much. Now they're changing the system entirely and are outright telling you the route that you accepted can absolutely change in a last-minute notice. In order to achieve this, we're implementing a change to the way estimated duration and pay are displayed in the app. This includes showing a range for estimated duration and pay at an initial route selection, showing a specific route duration and pay 2 hours before the route is scheduled to start. But with that 2 hours, you're going to be at risk of being called out for a late cancellation, and that can affect your income. Why would somebody want to accept a route with a last minute change like that? Not to mention, a lot of the times they end up launching late, so the start time isn't even accurate. So you can have a route that starts at 10, start at 12, and then that was initially 6 hours and then goes to 8 at a last minute notice. Now, usually what ends up happening is that the route itself will actually be within 1 hour, so it would be estimated duration 3 to 4 hours and not like a 2-hour range. But I have had times where they've actually pushed that even further than that route length. And honestly, these changes have caused some serious problems for me as a gig worker and also as somebody who's in business for themselves as a whole. How can I manage my time if you guys aren't even going to be straight with me when the time is actually adjusting? Like, what's going on? Limited schedule control. Now, they haven't really been shy about adding packages to your route in the first place, but they never really made a notice about it. Now they're not only messing with the overall system, they will add packages to your route without you even knowing. If I cannot calculate the value of the route with the package routes being challenging already due to the nature of the route selection system, how can I commit to a route with no real certainty of if it's actually going to be 4 hours, 3 hours, whatever, because you're adding stuff to it. I remember taking a 7 to 8 hour route and it ended up being 8.5. Not to mention, with no real control over my schedule, it's even harder to plan for the channel now. How I need to plan for editing and making content and scripting, etc., etc. Imagine running a more complicated business on top of that. You couldn't. Now, of course, this is a niche problem for me personally and a couple other business people. But let's say somebody who's operating a business that is in their growing stages and they're using this app to make money while they're in the growing stage. Now they can't can't choose routes that are even medium-sized because they can end up going much longer because of the nature of what they're doing. That's messed up. And like I said, if there's a delay at the launch warehouse, you can't plan for that anymore. It messes with everyone's schedule and everyone's ratings. You know how upset customers get about a package that is delivered late?
Oh, I'll just cancel the route if they do that. Why would I put myself at risk that way?
Late cancellations are penalized as well. Route size unavailable. They also stopped providing how many cubic feet are available on the route, so I have to make assumptions of what I need in terms of space. Thank God I have a Toyota RAV4 that can pretty much handle the majority of package routes that I would normally take. And they say that they know my vehicle capacity because I gave them my info, etc., etc. But like I said, during peak days and peak seasons, they've been really pushing that boundary. I basically have to assume that they're gonna make my job harder because they won't disclose anything more than normal or standard anymore. Which again, thank God I have a Toyota RAV4. What if I had a sedan or a large sedan? Would I have those same accommodations made for me, or have I just been lucky so far? Also, what if I have a larger route and they start adding more stops? Do I have to give up the route because of the additions you made? Support has already been proven to be the north side of useless for the most part, and that's a statement from me, a lot of other drivers, and even some warehouse people. Do I have to assume that they're going to continue to be useless? Or are they going to be even worse now? Less transparency. I don't need to tell you that they're really going out of their way to withhold as much information as possible, but now they have even less transparency. Their transparency was better than Amazon Flex in this way, and now they're watering down what made them better in the first place? Talk about poor business tactics. Do they teach that at Harvard? We all know as gig workers, in order to make an educated decision on whether or not we should take a gig, whether it's food delivery, rideshare, package route, etc., we need to know what we're being paid. We need to know how long it'll take to do what we do, and what will it take to get the job done, including mileage and such. Which they didn't really include mileage, but they have been okay in my area about keeping it pretty close to 2 to 1 in terms of from stop 1 to the last stop. Whether or not that's that way for routes that start further away from the warehouse is not really something I'm familiar with because I don't take those routes. But overall, they've been pretty good. But now we could end up having a much longer route when we were simply looking to have a medium-sized route. Or we were looking to have a smaller route and end up with a large route out of nowhere and not really being ready for it. Final thoughts. Honestly, the change has been okay so far in practice. They lean towards the higher paying side and the higher hours side, but I can still manage to finish the routes very early regardless of the package count. But you know what they really need to work on? Actually launching on time. But there is only so much they could do about that. That said, in order to be on Veho, or even balancing entrepreneurship with Veho or other gigs really, you need to have some decent time management skills, and not just in the short term, such as scheduling appointments and making sure you're not overlapping certain things. I was speaking to somebody who was operating a garage cleaning business on top of being a Veho driver, and he's even using Veho to using the routes to actually advertise his business. I'll make a video talking about that style of marketing. However, he says that basically he decides every day he's either advertising or making estimates. There's no in between. So he's not going to claim a route the same day he's got a bunch of estimates going. If I were you, I would just be aware that you shouldn't take a route unless you're fully prepared to spend the day on it, whatever happens. And whatever happens after happens. Because if you plan to do something after the route, there is a chance that things will change without any real notice. Did I miss anything? Is there something else about the route selection update that I have yet to cover in this video? Let me know in the comments. Let's make sure that anything and everything that needs to be said about the new route selection process is said, and we can make the most amount of money in the least amount of time in the safest possible way. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. As always, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.